Before we begin, thank you very much to Titan Class Lugnut Supreme for Legacy United for joining the Patreon campaign. Sorry, Legacy United has its Titan. I got the wish that I've been wishing for 2 years. But hey, if the animated figures take off, maybe a TJOmega Supreme from that series. That would be a great selects release to get the Lugnut Supreme out of it. Okay, that's a discussion for another day. Thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you everyone for pitching into the Patreon and keeping this channel going. You get the shout outs, you get the Discord access. You're also going to get, if you're high enough, you get a random, well, not a random, you get a review request. It can be a random review. It can be any format that I do. Or it can just be something you want me to talk about, and that is what today's video is. From Patreon, I had a request to just discuss the Cybertron series as a whole. And you know what? That's actually, actually hits me right in the heart. So I feel like someone was just giving me a donation just to make me do something I would genuinely enjoy. And you know what? I had a bad morning, kind of rough day, so you know what? I will take that. Thank you very much for your support. But because this is just kind of random thoughts, you'll see the scrolling video that's just going to give you visual examples as we go. I'm not going to go point to point. We're just kind of going to wing it here, and we're just kind of talk the series in general. So first off, the point we were at with Transformers at the time. So Armada brought a ton of kids and new fans into the series. It brought some collectors back because we went back to cars, but we were still lacking the thing that satisfied collectors. You know, there's a little bit of homage here and there, a few returning characters, but nothing that really grabbed us. And then Energon was kind of more of the same. The toys got a little bit better, a little bit more, the gimmicks were, strangely enough, not as intrusive, especially on the Decepticon side, which is saying something because the gimmick was combination. But it worked a lot better on a lot of those figures than some of the Armada gimmicks did. And at least it was a consistent gimmick across Autobots and a consistency across Decepticons. So, toy-wise, we could see that progression going upward. Show-wise, we're talking the cartoon, oh boy. So, remember, Armada was a rushed series, so we had a lot of animation errors due to them using stand-in footage that wasn't meant for the final release. If you ever watch Micron Densetsu, you're going to see finished sequences. So Optimus Prime isn't flying with his standard legs. He actually is combined with Jetfire for some of the appropriate scenes. And then, of course, the dub was handled horrendously. I don't know if it's translation error, lazy, you know, just someone just not doing their job properly as a translator, or if it's just like whoever rewrote it. But you've got a lot of instances of names getting swapped around, very odd line delivery. That's on the director, and a lot of confusing the Japanese and American names. So it gets to be a confusing series to follow, and it definitely has a lot of flaws and shortcomings. But then again, I love G1, and I will admit to this. There is no Transformers show with as many errors in production as Transformers G1. All right, so I will go ahead and give you that. I will go ahead and give you that. Energon, on the other hand, was just dull. Energon felt like it ran out of plot halfway through and spent about 15 episodes of just robots floating in space shooting at each other, waiting to get back to the plot. Yeah, the show's just dull, and you could hear it in the performances of the voice actors. You could just tell, like, Gary Chalk, I mean, for as immaculate as he is as a performer and for as professional as he is, there's some cries of Optimus Prime's super mode that just come across so flat, just like you can actually hear him in the recording booth just kind of staring at his clock going, when am I done? When am I done? I'd like to get, I'd really like to get out of here, like, so, like I gotta go to the bank, close at 4, like, and we get it, he just felt so bored. Now that is down to the director not really caring about their job, so I can't fault the actors, because of course we've heard him in much better things. So, toy and show-wise, that's where we are with Armada and Energon, then going into Cybertron. So there's something of a mindset of like, well, we really expect big things here, because the toy line keeps improving, and the show isn't. First off, the toys, and I have talked about the toys in Transformers Cybertron so many times, but it's always worth repeating to me. I genuinely feel Cybertron is the best Transformers toy line we ever got. Keep in mind, I really like what Hasbro's doing now. I love the random characters they're pulling. I love some of the transformation schemes they've come up with. There's some really clever engineering in today's Transformers. I'm not really like offended by a lot of the things that modern Transformer fans really like to gripe about. You know, like the waffling. I've heard it referred to waffling when one side of a big piece is hollowed out and all that's left are like the support plastic. It's a good term. It's a good term for it. But I think like the designers for Hasbro have come out and said, yeah, we make sure that actually kind of looks cool, even if we have to do it. So I don't mind things like that. I don't really mind hollowed out hips and legs either, as long as it's, you know, still solid and still works as a toy. I'm okay with that. But man, toy-wise, we had everything we could want in Cybertron. So first off, you've got heavily constructed toys, a lot of solid parts, nothing hollowed out, visibly nothing hollowed out, but they were just solid, chunky toys, and you had so little dependency on things like panels. They had kibble, because most Transformers have some form of kibble, but you weren't relying on panels to complete vehicle modes. You know, maybe some doors were hanging off the shoulders or back, but that's a typical Transformer thing. It's been around since G1. You know, for the most part, the vehicle, the chunks of the vehicle became the main parts of the robot. So you could see like the actual change and this shifting. And I love Transformer toys that do that. I'm not a fan of the robot that's tucked into shells, right? Like this robot mode doesn't show anything that was visible in vehicle mode. No. No. Go away. Go away. Admittedly, Cybertron has that. In fact, Cybertron may have been the series that started that. Thank you, Thunderblast. Well, no. I take that back, because Beast Wars 2nd gave us, or Beast Wars Neo gave us Dead End and Break. So never mind. I take it back. Point being, back to my point. I love the toy line for everything that it did. Yes, it's a big, chunky, solid robot toy line. Everything feels good. I love that everyone had this unifying gimmick that also made for kind of a fun little collectible. I used to keep my Cyber Keys in like a coin binder, like coin collectors would use, to keep them all separated, make sure that like the chrome on the emblems didn't scratch. And it was cool to kind of flip through and see all the different ones I had gotten, and a lot of the weird variations that came up from time to time, especially if you started getting all the Cybertron repaints that came after Cybertron. No, I really like Cyber Keys. Really like Cyber Keys. So on top of that, it's a cool little gimmick, but then again, Cybertron just kind of does whatever it wants with gimmicks, right? So it's not like Minicon gimmicks where it's incredibly intrusive. A lot of the gimmicks are very well engineered and integrated into the robots, so it doesn't really affect them, you know? So like Hot Shots, like Hot Rod wing flip out things, those don't affect him in any way, shape, or form. It's just a little characteristic detail that flies out. Flip out guns mostly did the same thing. There's very few times where I could think like a Cyber Key gimmick was intrusive, because the engineering was just so smart. You've got like Starscream, where the Voyager one, where the, you know, plugging the key into the back makes things on the arms flip out. Both arms at the same time, as a matter of fact. That's really cool. That's really cool. That's really good engineering. I really like that. So that was really good. That was really good. Honestly, I think one of the best engineering tricks in that entire series is Dirt Boss. And there's a toy that no one really gives credit for. So Dirt Boss has this whole thing where his axle base widens when you put his key in. So it, looks like he can get more traction and be a lower to the ground racer instead of a monster truck. That's a cool gimmick. But in the robot mode, it doesn't do that. In the robot mode, the exact same key slot makes extra shoulder guns flip up. That's cool. That's 2 different gimmicks with 1 key slot. That's a brilliant piece of engineering. And they're even smart enough that, like, the wheel pack has to be in the wide mode for the robot mode to stand upright steady. So when you rotate the waist, it automatically flips them out. So you don't, even if you lose the cyber key, you're not out the toy, and it can still transform. Again, brilliant engineering in that line. Also, you're looking at variety. The variety that we got. If you wanted modern vehicles, you got that. If you wanted futuristic, you got that. You want animals? Yeah, we got some animals. We got some dinosaurs. Which ones do you want? You want construction vehicles? We got construction vehicles. They're some of the biggest ones in the line, as a matter of fact. Basically, whatever kind of aesthetic that you like in your Transformers, they had something for you. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Like, the overall design style was always the same and consistent, but, I've got an old school muscle car in Downshift. I've got a super, futuristic space, racer in Override. I have a 3-headed dragon in Scourge. It's brilliant what they came up with. And the design work is just, oh my god, some of the design work in that series is some of the best we've ever had. I love Hotshot's design in that show. It's the only Hotshot I really like. Love Starscream, still one of my favorite designs. Optimus Prime, I still say is like my favorite design and toy for Optimus ever. Yeah, toy-wise, I really think Cybertron just nailed it. Yes, I've done a couple Plastic Addict episodes for Cybertron. Not every toy line is perfect. No, there is no such thing as a perfect toy line, but I think Cybertron is as close as we got. After that, we're kind of pandering to G1 again with classics, but it's still very solid. No real gimmicks, though, so that could be a good or bad thing. The first wave of movie that was starting to, like, mess with the engineering a lot, and they really couldn't figure out how to get those movie forms in 3-dimensional plastic. That's a growing pain. We accept those. We didn't really get, like, Cybertron level design and engineering again until animated. And I feel like after animated, budget started catching up, production nonsense started catching up, and things started getting a little bit, that's where the downhill begins. So it really does come from a point where we were just, like, spoiled for good toys, and just it was the right opportunity to have them. Then we got to talk about the cartoon. Now, at least Cybertron is easy to talk about in that we don't have to cover comics, video games, movies, read-along books, whatever else. No, all we really have to talk about is the toy line and the cartoon. And the cartoon is... Okay, I think out of the trilogy, out of the Unicron trilogy, I do think it's the best one. I do think that what was pretty crudely done in Energon with CGI robots interacting with 2-dimensional anime human characters and environments, I think it was done way better in Cybertron. The animation's obviously a lot more fluid. There's obviously a lot more budget put into it. The models were dead accurate to the toys, to the point where the screw holes were still visible in them. They still had kind of a tendency to just kind of be stiff and standing around, and just very stiff and deliberate in their movements, but they're also robots. So I kind of expect that, and I'm not offended by it. But no, I think they nailed the aesthetic a lot better. And yes, the animation was a lot better. Also better was the dub quality. You didn't have, incorrect names being thrown around all of the time. We went through an entire series where no one misgendered Override because the script still called for Nitro Convoy. So good on you. Good on you. The director was actually caring. And when the director cares, the voice actors care. Gary Chalk in Energon sounds bored. Gary Chalk in Cybertron sounds like Gary Chalk again. Now, let's be clear here. I watched through Galaxy Force all the way through. And obviously, I kind of prefer the way Galaxy Force handled a lot of things. I did watch enough of Cybertron to really know how they handle things. I think I remember watching most of it, but I can't remember a whole lot, except bits and pieces. So, there are things to point out that is cool. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff going for it. You know, like, the first time we got to see Primus in animation, that's kind of cool. The introduction of Vector Prime. Vector Prime, who should be a much bigger character in Transformers lore. He's one of the 13, but they never use him. We had kid characters who weren't annoying. Like Kobe, Bud, and Lori. I actually really like all three. I think all three brought something to everything. It's not, no one was whiny like Kicker, and we didn't have Bill and Fred, who, like, I wanted to shoot out of an airlock. So, so character balance. Much, much better. The story is not bad. Like, they didn't run out of plot like they did in Energon. If anything, they had too much plot going on. Because early in the series, you could tell how much time they were dedicating to some of these planets. And then when we got to the end of the series, the giant planet, whatever you want to call it, Gigalonia, which I still think is a cool name. Like, Gigalonia is like a brief snippet of episodes by comparison, and we barely touched on Planet X at all. It's just where Soundwave and Sideways came from. So that was a whole mess. Compared to, like, the Speed Planet, Velocitron, where it felt like we spent half the series practically. It felt that way anyway. So, yeah, I think they had trouble balancing the story, but I do love the idea. Like, they did the colony, the colony story long before IDW did. And they didn't find a planet of female Transformers to kind of explain where all them went, but they did do a great job of explaining why we have so many different aesthetics going on, and it expanded the universe of Transformers. I love that we actually had a show that expanded the horizons again and opened up the universe, and it was such a much grander scale. It wasn't just Earth and Cybertron like it always is today. There were other colonies, there were other types of Transformers, and we kind of felt like all of those planets and battles were important. So yeah, they did some great stuff story-wise, and also some not good stuff story-wise. They had Starscream's best day ever, where he beat like a dozen Autobots and got the Omega Lock. That's fantastic. I love that Starscream got to have a cool day. What else can I point out? Another great thing they did was in Armada and Energon, both. When a character got a new color, that's how they power up. That's how they got an upgrade. Cybertron did that a little bit too. Megatron becoming Galvatron for the third time, by the way. That was cool. But what was cool was seeing Hotshot, Scattershot, and Red Alert all be upgraded into completely new bodies and thus new toys instead of just getting repaints as their upgrades. Brilliant. So much better. I love that so much better than just getting a repaint. I wish they do it more often. Especially because it kind of lets us, take a character in a different direction. We went from Red Alert the ambulance to Red Alert the ICBM missile truck. Love it. Kind of love it. The dub, like I said, is a lot better. Doesn't mean it's innocent though. There's some issues to the dub that disturb me. Number one, don't talk during stock animation, especially transformation sequences. People kind of I think one of the first running gags on the internet that everyone kind of figured out is that every episode of Sailor Moon should have ended during her transformation sequence when the monster just kind of shoots her. Because what's the monster doing while she's twirling around and letting her outfit be made by one magical ribbon at a time? We joke about that, but really, stock animation like that, stock transformation sequences are a flourish. They're just like a fun little thing that the audience gets to enjoy, they're not real. They're not actually happening in front of the characters. It's exaggeration. You know, so when you put dialogue over it, it's super awkward. Because now you really are just asking, why doesn't Megatron just shoot these two while they're combining? You know, like things like that. Things like that, like, bug me. Because it's useless prattle. It really is. It's Optimus giving speeches. It's characters cracking bad jokes. It's really just meh. Now, if you really thought like you need to fill up these sequences, no, what you needed to do was fast forward them or edit them to be shorter and punchier, because, you know, animation, you know, like shows in America run shorter than Japanese anyway, so you need to cut the time down somewhere. Here's a great place to cut it down. You know, you fast forward those sequences, and you don't put dialogue in because it's so stupid. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Also, I don't like the accents. Everyone in this show had an accent. You know, you had like, I think it was Thundercracker had a Southern accent, and Scattershot had a Texas accent. Red Alert became British in between series. Everyone on the giant planet was Scottish. And then even like Jetfire. Jetfire was Australian now for no reason. And Scott McNeil's not voicing Jetfire in this series, despite doing the character 2 years in a row, because they didn't think Scott could sound Australian enough. The man was born there! So that's another frustration. See, on one hand, they do stand out a lot more than they did in Energon, where everyone just kind of had this, like, all the Autobots just kind of had, like, standard soldier voice number 4. This one, it really felt like the only reason they went with accents is because it was easier than writing distinct characterizations. Yeah, it made the characters stand out, but it's an easy way to make the characters stand out. You know, it's not necessarily, like, a good thing that everyone has an accent. It always, to me, felt like a shortcut to actually writing the characters to make them distinct enough for kids to recognize. It just, I don't know. It puts me back in the mindset of Chrono Cross. If you ever played Chrono Cross, there's 40 characters in that game, but the game is not designed to always know what characters are in your party. So instead, there's a generic set of dialogue, and depending on the character in your party that has to speak it, the dialogue changes to show and be an example of a different accent. Which meant a lot of the characters in Chrono Cross are really, really bland. Because no one stands out, because everyone just kind of has to act and be the same way, you know, for these specific circumstances. And I kind of feel like Cybertron works the same way, you know? Like, that doesn't mean it's devoid of it. You know, we got Ransack and Crumplezone, who definitely have their own personality. It's Bulk and Skull, but it's their own personality. You know, and obviously Starscream stands out. After two years of doing different things with him, he's back to his traditional traitorous self. You know, and Soundwave with the disc jockey voice. So there's points where they did try, and then a lot of characters who just went, no, you're Scottish now. Which works if you're a Power Ranger in RPM. It doesn't work in Transformers. So I've always been iffy about Cybertron as a show. You know, like, there's just, it was obviously, they obviously put a lot more effort into it. You know, acting, writing, everything. They put a lot more effort into it. And it's definitely the most watchable of the 3 Unicron Trilogy cartoons. But they make such boneheaded choices. They make some really boneheaded choices in the writing department. And it really does frustrate me. So, yeah, I'm kind of half and half on the series as a whole. But like I said, like, I still think it's one of the better lines we ever got. I think it's still one of the best times Transformers ever had. We had a quality cartoon, for the most part, and we had really quality toys. You know, and you know, that's a really good combination, you know, and it's a rare combination to get. You know, right now in Earthspark, we have a really good series with some really, like, meh toys. You know, so it was kind of a rare time. So that's my whole thoughts on Cybertron. Truncated down into something that's, like, actually watchable in one seating. So thank you everyone who did watch this whole way through. To my patron, I hope that was a satisfactory video that you had in mind. And thank you as always. I will see you next time.
I'm like, I think you guys got this. I will back away, and I will see you all later.
You've got this handled.
Alafi's like, really? You're not gonna help me? Like, it's fine now.
It's like these disgusting creatures breathing down my neck, and you're all just like, I believe in you. You got this.
All right, you seem to have this. 5 minutes.